You ever give someone a piece of friendly advice and they react like you just gave them a direct order? Or maybe you've been on the other side, right? Wondering why a casual suggestion suddenly felt, well, really heavy. It's this super common friction point in our lives, and it almost always comes down to a few tiny but incredibly powerful words. So let's dive into this hidden war of words and figure out what is really going on. Okay, take this phrase right here. It's from a Reddit user talking about their arts. On the surface, it sounds great, doesn't it? Super supportive. But depending on who's saying it and who's hearing it, this exact sentence can land in a bunch of different ways. It could be a gentle nudge, or it could feel like a forceful shove. So that's the big question, isn't it? How can a simple word like should cause so much trouble? Why does it sometimes feel like helpful advice and other times feel like this obligation you never even asked for? Well, the answer, it turns out, is all about where these words fall on a really fascinating spectrum of meaning. To get our heads around this, we need a mental model. So try to think of these words not as just being similar, but as points along a line. Let's call it a spectrum of obligation. On one end, you've got these ironclad commands, and way down on the other, you have gentle recommendations. And where each word falls, well, that's the key to everything. So let's start at the strong end of that spectrum with the real heavyweights, must and have to. Now, they both signal a pretty strong obligation, but, and this is important, the source of that power is completely different. So here's the crucial difference. It's all about where the authority is coming from. If I say I must finish this project, that pressure is coming from me. It's my own standards, my own drive. But if I say I have to finish this project, the pressure is external. My boss, a deadline, some outside force is making me do it. See the difference? Okay, now here is where it gets really, really interesting. Their meanings totally flip when you make them negative. This is where so many mix-ups happen. Must not means something is forbidden, period. But don't have to means it's optional. They are not the same thing at all. In fact, they're kind of opposites. Let's look at this in the real world. You must not take photos here. That's a strict rule. You are prohibited from doing it. No way around it. But you don't have to bring a guidebook. That's the total opposite of a rule. It means there's zero obligation. You can if you want to, but you totally don't need to. That's a massive difference in meaning. All right, let's move down to the other end of our spectrum and check out the more subtle words we use for giving advice. Should and ought to seem pretty similar on the surface, but one of them has this incredible secret history that still affects how we hear it today. Yeah, there's a reason for that. It's not just a random quirk of the language. The word ought has literally traveled through time, and it's carrying the ghost of its original meaning with it. And its journey is honestly pretty wild. Just look at this evolution. Ought started its life as the word for ownership, ogen. Over hundreds of years, it morphed into the idea of owing someone a financial debt. And from there, it became about owing a moral debt, the feeling that you have a duty to do the right thing. That whole history is still baked right into the word. So what does that mean for us? Well, while they're both used to give advice, ought to carries all that historical weight. It taps into a deeper sense of moral duty. Should, on the other hand, is just the common, everyday choice, and it usually feels a lot lighter. And this scale just lays it all out perfectly. Up at the top, you've got the super strong, almost command-like force of must. Way down at the bottom, you have weaker possibilities. And you see ought to right there in the middle? It's sitting as a weak obligation. It's definitely stronger than a simple suggestion, but it's way weaker than a direct order. Okay, so this is way more than just a grammar lesson. These tiny little distinctions have huge real-world consequences, especially when you start mixing different cultures and backgrounds. This is exactly where friendly advice can accidentally start a massive argument. First off, just look at the numbers. This is data from the British National Corpus, and it shows that the word should shows up almost 20 times more often than ought. And because we hear and use should constantly, its meaning has become incredibly flexible and sometimes incredibly blurry. So now we get to the real heart of the issue. According to a lot of American English speakers, when they say you should, they often just mean something like, hey, I think it would be a cool idea if. It's totally subjective. It's a light, friendly suggestion that you are completely free to ignore. But, and this is a huge but, for a British English speaker, that exact same phrase can mean something totally different. As one person put it, the American way of using it is just alien. To them, you should isn't some light personal opinion. It's a much stronger objective statement about what is correct, about the right thing to do.
And that right there is the perfect recipe for a misunderstanding. One person thinks they're just tossing out a fun idea, being helpful and encouraging, but the other person hears it as a declaration of what they're doing wrong and what they're obligated to do to fix it. One feels helpful, the other feels bossed around.
So let's wrap this all up. When you're talking about commands, figure out if the authority is internal, that's must, or external, that's have to. When you're giving advice, use should for your everyday stuff, and maybe save ought to for when you're talking about a real moral duty. And the most important thing of all, remember that with should, context and culture are everything. I mean, the journey of ought to, from a word meaning to own something to a word meaning to advise someone, proves that nothing in language is permanent. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? A century from now, will should become even lighter and more casual, or will must start to lose its punch? The words we use are alive, and their story is definitely not over yet.